Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Everyone, welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from beautiful New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey since, at least 2019. So big thank you to Folgers. We couldn't do it without you, nor would we want to. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, a.k.a. Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for the contribution of his music, his time, his voice, for the intro you just heard. He is an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, and sci-fi, dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. Also, thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind our logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the horror and Halloween genre, but does phenomenal commission pieces of any sort. So tonight is a continued discussion into the mysterious and the obscure, you name it, with our guest host, Wayne Mallows, and we'll be bringing him on in a moment. And big apologies on the delay. There were some shenanigans on my board tonight, which there should not have been. Anyway, had to undo the shenanigans just to be able to get ourselves going. So anyway, here we are. So without further ado, guest co-host for the night. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, probably wondering what was going on there, right?
No, I asked no questions. It wasn't my fault. I don't go in your office. It wasn't.
I know. I'm gonna gotta have a message going out. That's all I'm gonna say. Just gonna go. But anyway, Mort. Hi, Kathy. Hello, Patsy. Hello, Alan. Alan, you're here early. That's awesome. Hello, Mish. Oh my goodness, everybody chiming in. Always great to see you. Hello, Mark. Hello. Shenanigans happen. Yeah, but it's not fun when it happens to you and you end up starting your show a few minutes late. It's kind of like, come on. Anyway, that's that. So
hey man,
here
the
we
only
are.
time I'm on time is when I have to be on the show.
Hello, Heidi. Yeah. I know. That's okay. Just gonna, got to do what you got to do. Hey, Carrie. Hello. Oh my gosh. So yeah, it's been a crazy day. Yeah, you are actually on time. I was late. Sky is falling. I was late. You were on time. I love it. Oh no. Just in time for open mic anything goes night.
Well, they say the poles are shifting. Things are changing.
Oh no. That's not going to be a good thing. So, but there we go. Banners up. See, I'm just like running behind like it's a crazy person. This is insane. But with that being said, we've got some pretty interesting things to talk about tonight. I want to start off with two things, though. One, I'm going to start off, of course, with Ozzy Osbourne. Yes, rest in peace. Died Monday morning, I believe it was. And it's a tragedy. I had a lot of memories with Ozzy. Had a lot of shenanigans with Ozzy. Let's just go down that road, So he didn't know it, but we had some great adventures together. I mean, we were dreamers. We barked at the moon. I did a post about that. Just pecked off a few of his songs that I really enjoyed, and I guess all good things. I like to say come to an end, but I think his journey is definitely continuing, and we will continue to have some shenanigans because I'll never stop listening to his music. So anyway, mad love for Ozzy and well wishes and prayers, to his family and respecting the time that they need through all of this. Also, we're going to get into, I mentioned this briefly last week, but we are, I want to talk a little bit about Dan Rivera. There's so much conversation going on about Annabelle right now. And it's just like, oh my goodness. So Laura Lee and I actually talked about this yesterday a little bit, but I have to say, people I think forget the fact, you know, with paranormal researchers, and it's in any field, love them, hate them, whatever the case may be. He's still a father, he's still a husband, and he still has a family that are left behind. And they're the ones that have to read all of this stuff that's out there. And it's just to a point where everybody can speculate until things come in, everybody can speculate. When I met Dan, actually, we met Dan together at Lorraine's, and he had just come on board the team. He's very new, very fresh. And, I was treated like complete royalty over there. I really was. I have, you know, I was just treated so well. They were just so very kind. And he was just so enthusiastic and happy to be there and to be a part of all of this, and very new. And wherever things went after that, because I don't really follow along. I'm not on social media a whole lot. I'm really not. You just sort of hear things through the grapevine, and I leave it at that, because I'm grateful. I have as many people that do that really love me, but there are those who don't. And you know what? To each his own. I don't care. At this stage, all you can do is your best moving forward, and that's all you can do. So I just want to say, when it comes to Annabelle, there's a lot of things with Annabelle, and having conversation briefly with Lorraine about it, and Adam, they truly believed it was. Did it get bigger? Was it like a Topol effect, because so much emphasis was put on it by the world? Essentially, these movies came out, and that was it. And it just grew and grew and grew. Right? There's people saying, "Well, if she was that dangerous, why was she on tour?" No, I don't know. I know that Ed Lorraine's grandson, Chris, did not really agree with it. But any way you look at it, the family has come together because this is a tragedy. Dan was considered very much family. We've been with him for a very long time. So all I ask is, just sort of show a little bit of consideration to the family that is left behind. Because his kids one day are going to read all this stuff. This just never goes away. It stays on the internet for freaking ever. So anyway, I've said my piece on it. I tend to feel that way, though. I put myself in that position. I sure wouldn't appreciate it, for my own family, right? But just getting to the question, no, he was not. They did consider him family. Absolutely, they did, because he'd been there for a really long time. But no, he was not. But, Lorraine definitely mentored him, and he was very close with her. So, okay. Thank you, Sherry. Sorry, please. Oh, okay. All right, here we go. Okay, so just sort of making my way. Okay, so I've said my piece. Wayne?
Sorry?
Any thoughts?
I try not to have those. They hurt.
Oh, it's okay, Alan. No worries. Yes, thoughts can hurt.
Oh, they can. Well, I was never a rock and roll fan or music fan or anything of that stuff, but it's still
You're
sad.
A weirdo, that's why.
Yeah, well, I know. I don't deny that at all, right? But it's sad when anybody passes. It's the ones that are left behind that are the ones that are left struggling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true, and there just seems to be a whole lot of it lately, honestly. But I wanted to open the show that way because, there's because, everybody, the world's going to miss him. There's a little black spot there now, and it's kind of like boo. But the music will live on, I'm sure. And, I thought I read something that maybe there had been some music done, and just sort of kept for to be played or released after the fact. So here, just hoping so. Oh, flattered Dave, wasn't it great? I love him. He's so enthusiastic, this guy. That segment, there were two different ones. The first one, I think it hit like it was like 2,500 views or something. It was crazy, but he was a lot of fun.
It was
He was.
compelling too. I mean, it's like he
Yeah.
made some pretty strong arguments, and I'm just like, I can't refute it. I really can't. So, everything I've learned I learned in school that was taught to me by someone who was taught to them. So, he's just like, well,
Mhm.
you question where the information comes from. I'm like, he's not wrong.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean, you know what? He definitely he was. He is. I mean, yeah, I should bring him back on again just because he is so much freaking fun, wasn't he?
A lot of energy, that guy.
Oh, there's two interviews with him, Alan. You should go on and check them out. They're both on the channel. The first time, it was crazy when he came on because he's got a pretty staunch following. Like they either love him or they don't. And the ones that love him, oh my God, they first came on. They were a little bit judgmental with Amelia and I. And I just approached him like, "Hey, I'm a student. You're the teacher. Go crazy." And he goes, "Throw me anything. Just give me any question." I'm like, "Okay." And his people especially, had so much fun. They're like, "Oh my God, this is the best show ever." Because I guess he really gets attacked a lot in some shows. And I don't do that to our guests. I find it so disrespectful if I have anybody within my space on this show that insults my guests, because it's like it's insulting me. So I would never put up with that. And they just went crazy. And when part 2 came on, their following came along. It was a lot of fun. And I learned a lot too. You know what I mean? So it was really cool.
I think
really
his
cool.
people are just like, what the word I used was ferociously protective. Is the way I looked at it. They were just really protective of him. And that's nice to see.
Yeah. Oh, I love people who are passionate and they just put it out there. I think it's just wonderful. But I mean, there's so much information coming out on it. It's who knows? I don't know. People are passionate and they do their research, and it's just like, yeah, I'm not up there floating over the over the planet. I don't bloody know. You do, you don't, you speculate, but you have people who are just as passionate about their theory as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to see Ozzy with Sabbath. I saw them with Ronnie James Dio, who was equally just as amazing. In my opinion, he was just fantastic as well. But yeah, so anyway, but one thing about Ozzy, which is going to push us right into our topics for the evening, is his son Jack Osborne does so much paranormal television. And of course, if Ozzy's kind of been in there giving his 2 cents worth on some, a couple of different series that he did. I love him with Robert the Doll when they went on the road trip. That was hilarious. I love him when he's, looking at videos, giving his opinion, and, ball lightning was always his favorite thing. And it became
It's my favorite thing too.
I know.
Everything around the house is ball lightning now.
I know. So it was already, it was pretty cool. But, with that being said, it was pretty cool to see that he apparently was into it. And it was kind of interesting to see, because out of all the stuff out there, it was kind of cool.
Well, it's funny now because you'll show me different pictures of stuff you're working on. Just different. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And I'll quote Ozzy on a lot of that stuff. Just drive you crazy.
I know.
Well, that's just a double exposure. Someone's messed with a negative.
It's like, yes.
It's ball lightning. It's just ball lightning.
I know. Oh my gosh.
It's never dull around here, that's for sure.
It's never dull. No, it's never dull for sure. So, you wanted to actually, before we get into all of the list of stuff that I have here, you wanted to talk about awareness and vibration and how to achieve that level of, I don't know, what is it? Is it being more blissful? Is it being, what is it for you?
I don't know. I'm asking you. Like we were just jamming about that the other day.
We live together. You just
well, I know.
Across from the table.
I do, and sometimes I get a really good answer, and sometimes
good. That Mark is saying it right there. Ball lightning.
Ball lightning. There you go. See,
I know.
That's my answer.
Okay.
But no, it's like what we were talking about the other day. I was like, you hear people say, oh, be more positive, raise your vibration, and raise your energy, that sort of thing. And logically, the words go in, and I totally get it. I totally get it. But I'm
Yeah.
trying to actually implement it so I don't have to think about it. It's kind of like, you know, I just know to shut the light off when I leave a room. I don't have to say, Wayne, shut the light off when you leave the room. I don't want to be like, Wayne, be more positive. Like, I want it to just be natural. The way I equated it to you when I was talking to you the other day was, you know, when I was 14, you know, I had an understanding of how to drive a car.
Mm.
I didn't know all the nuances of how to drive a car.
Mm-hmm.
But logically, I pretty much thought I could drive a car until driving school came, and I was like this on the road, right? You know, I was terrible. I thought I was never going to be able to drive a car. But
Yeah.
I kind of equate it to that, where it's just like, I know the principle behind it, and I know what it means. But for whatever reason, if I'm making it work, I'm unaware that I'm making it work. And I'm not sure kind of how to take the formula and make it work. That's kind of where I'm at right now,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, my firm belief, and I'm always sort of preaching about it. You know, well, I don't preach about it. I post more, I think, on Instagram. I'm trying to share it up to Facebook now. So, you know, but with that being said, I always post about, you know, everything. Positive vibrations are important because, you know, how it was always explained to me is that the universe does not necessarily acknowledge your wants and your needs, but it does acknowledge vibration. So if you're putting out a certain vibe, you know, which is essentially one where you're content, one where you're happy. Like I'll back up a minute. When I work with people who are in really bad situations, I'll always say raise the vibration because negative, you know, ethereals, for example, whatever the case may be, whatever it is they are, some negative ones feed off of energy. So they will create that vibration within your space. So if something comes in, they'll keep you bickering. They might keep, you know, everything very, very tense. If you have an addiction, you know, they might amp it up, or they might project thoughts into your mind where you may want to start, you know, oh, I'm just going to start a fight, or I'm just going to get drunk, or I'm going to be, you know, whatever it is. This is what they feed off of. So I'll tell people, you know what, just raise your vibration. Do that. Watch a funny movie, dance, listen to some music, go outside, take a walk, hug a tree, you know, open the windows, get some fresh air, like whatever it is that makes you feel good. Lean on your faith. You know, if you're a person of faith, lean on your faith. If it makes you feel good, then reach out to that, draw it in, go to your you know your community of faith and spend time with them. Like whatever it is that makes you feel enlightened. And yes, Alan makes a good point. Walking on grass barefoot, grounding. Grounding
yes,
is,
works.
they call it earthing when you're doing that way, but it's so important because grounding your energy makes it harder for things to latch onto you. Whether it's even somebody's wonky energy, you know what I mean? It's still easy for us to be affected by that. So when you're grounded, it doesn't affect you the same way.
Mhm.
So in order to and now getting back to you to sort of raise your vibration, it's all of those things. Just doing anything that makes you feel good, staying positive. And I know it's hard because life likes to throw curveballs at you, but it's so important to just, you know, like you would always joke, and I'd say, no, the look at the glass as being half full, not half empty. And you would look at me and say, there is no glass. Okay, you see?
I don't even have a glass.
I know, I don't even have a
My
glass.
glass was taken away when I was 4.
But you know, but with
But I mean,
that being,
I know what you say. Like I can make it work. Like I'm not like such a noob that I don't understand it. It's just I
Mm,
want to make it second nature. Like I told you
mhm,
this before. Like I had an incident at work quite a lot of years ago, many years ago, and it was just a bad day. And I was dropping tools. Like the printer wasn't working. Like everything I did was just a nightmare. And, I had to go up and down all these ladders. Every time I got to the top, I'd drop a pair of pliers, drop a screwdriver. And
Yeah.
finally, the last time I picked it up and I whipped the thing, just whipped the pliers down the hallway. And I'm like, there, you happy?
That is not helping you.
No, I know. But
It's
then I realized as I was doing it, walking like a moron and going to pick up the pliers that I need now,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, okay, I get it. I get it. Okay. You know what? I'm going to fix this. You know what I'm going to fix this? I'm going to sing. I'm going to sing badly.
Yeah.
I'm going to sing badly. I
Oh, boy.
can't sing.
Oh, boy.
And I sang so badly I started laughing. And I was laughing so hard at how bad I was singing that everything just changed. And I watched it and I felt it physically change. So I just don't want to get it to that point. I just want to wake up in the morning and be that child of light every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making headway. I'm just curious as how
Mm-hmm.
people are just either born to it or not. I mean, I've always been told opposites attract. And what kills me about it is that, as you've said, it's like, I'm this person of light and the darkness doesn't like it. Right. So they pick on me. But then if I become negative, then I attract more negativity. But if I'm really good and light, I attract more negativity because they hate it. How do I attract the good people? How do I attract the light people, please?
Well, it's exactly what we're talking about. Like I'll use people, in chat for an example. I see when people are positive, it draws people in. Even people who are not normally in the chat. I've had people say to me, I love your chat room. It's so relaxed. It's so much fun. I love the way everybody interacts and shares ideas. But if you get somebody that comes into the chat room who just wants to act like not so nice, they'll go after them. It's just like nobody wants bad juju in their space, even in the chat room. Which has been very interesting because we stream across, like, we're on 8 platforms. Roku doesn't have a chat room, right? So we have 7 chat rooms simultaneously, and I could see all of the stream from each of those chats come up right here on the board. So I kind of know who's being naughty and who's being nice, and feeling like Santa a bit, but
say more like Krampus, right?
Krampus, yeah, right. There you go. So I see a lot of this stuff, right? So it's just, at the end of the day, if you're putting out that kinder vibration, it's going to come back, and that's what you're going to attract. So they say, well, what you put out there is what comes back to you. And I guess that's all part of manifesting your own reality, is if you could keep putting all of that out there, then eventually this is all you attract. I've had people say, oh, I'm having difficulty with this or with this. I'm like, we just have to put it out there a little bit differently, like where you're just sort of being positive and stay positive. And it's hard.
Well, it's hard.
I mean, you and I will be driving and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And you just see me go, love and light. Just got to throw it in there for good measure. Love and light. Just keep going. Right. So
we'd make a great sitcom. I'm just saying, the stuff that goes on, right? It's crazy. Like, I had this epiphany the other day, and it was quite profound. Like, I'm not a youngster anymore, but I was outside and I was just walking around doing stuff like I normally do, and again, it was a 2-part situation where, I went to the truck to get something, and then I realized, oh, I've got to get something else first. But my memory's bad. So I'm like, well, I better get that before I forget to get it. So then I walk back to the garage, I get it. I'm walking back to the truck now, and I'm thinking to myself, no, I better put this away. Anybody watching me would see this guy, like the duck game. He's going back and forth in the garage, holding a snow brush in his hand, go back and forth, not doing anything. It's just, trying to sort it all in my head. And again, I just started laughing, and I went from feeling really stupid to feeling like pretty upbeat, and it was pretty funny. But it was in that moment I realized that even as a kid watching cartoons, like every kid does, I mean, they always would show the image of the little angel on one shoulder and the little devil on the other shoulder whispering at you to try to do the right thing or do the wrong thing. And literally there was a little voice that said, it's exactly like that. It's who you listen to. The choice is yours. It was like, whoa. whoa, it was intense. It was an intense feeling. I had to actually sit on the tailgate of the truck and have a moment because that was intense.
Mm-hmm. See, like I think it does listen. You just have to speak the right language. Shut up.
Oh, okay.
I only talk to him like that because he lives with me. I wouldn't say that to a guest. Shut up. What?
Speak the right language. Okay.
See, we have these conversations a lot.
We do.
And sometimes I just say we really need to have this conversation on one of the open mics because it's really whimsical.
Well, it's not so much even that. It's like what I said the other night was, like I can't be the only individual struggling with this. Like you're not. Some people are. They're born with it, and they just are just this pillar of light, and they're amazing.
Mhm.
And I just think it's wonderful. Then there's other people like me that, I consider myself a good person. I try to help everybody that I can. And I just kind of struggle and struggle and struggle with so many things. I'm thinking we should talk about it on air just because other people must feel like this from time to time. They must.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's something that I get this from different people that I've spoken to over the years, where they feel like they have a bullseye on their back. I think if you've had an attachment, if you've had an attachment, then I always say, it's almost like it's like as a collective, they are well aware of who you are. Alan says, not being a big fanboy, but our guy Wayne is awesome. I could listen to him for days. And Sherry too.
I would bore you after the first couple of hours. I'm very repetitive.
No.
Yeah, what do you talk about? Well, let me bring up the commenting too. And tell me I'm wrong. Right?
Okay. Oh, that's kind of like a little joke. Wayne likes he repeats himself.
There you go. What did I just say? I repeat myself. No, you don't. Oh.
No, I didn't. No. Wow. Okay.
Yes, you did. I got it on recording, but it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I know when I'm talking, and I'll look over, and she's just like, because it's probably the 19th time I've shared this wisdom with her, and she's just like, I know.
That's good.
Can I share a funny story with you and I from early days that just makes me laugh?
Okay.
So I'm trying to sort this whole life thing out, right? And I'm picking the one who knows brain, right? Like, okay, help me with this, help me with that, blah 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 blah. I want to understand whatever it was I was trying to sort out. And she goes, I can't tell you. It's not my place. It's your path.
What interference?
It's like, wait a minute, hold on a second. But I'm asking for help. It's like, no, you got to find your own way. But that just blows. It just sucks. Well, that's just.
I guide you a lot.
But in the early days, you were just trying to help me. It's like you got to learn the lesson, and I get it. If you show somebody something before they're ready to hear it or learn it, it doesn't absorb. It doesn't stick. Right? Look at that situation I've got going on with a friend of mine.
I'm told things too, and
100%
that I abide by. Right.
Right. So and I got a friend of mine. So I could have told him X, Y, Z, 6-7 years ago, and he would have argued with me. Sorry, verbatim, just forever. And just 2 weeks ago, he's like, I want to share something with you, like it's brand new, But he's ready now, so that was perfect. So I totally get it. But where I'm going with this, people, and you'll get a chuckle out of this. So we fast forward a couple of years, and Michelle calls me up and she says, Can you listen to my car? And I'm like, sure. So I go over, and she had this SUV thing. So I come over and open the hood, and I go start it up. So she starts it up, and I can tell what it is right away. I know exactly what it is. It's just, what is it? I said, well, I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. She goes, oh, great. What is it? I said, I can't tell you. I can't interfere with your path.
Welcome to my life, people.
And she looks at me. She's like, you really want to go there? I'm like, no, but it's just like, I'd like to help you, but I can't. You need to go get a mechanics course and figure it out. And then once you learn how to do it and buy some tools, you'll be able to fix it. It's easy. I walked on a dangerous path that afternoon. I lived in fear for quite a few hours.
Yeah, it's real nice, right?
But we had a laugh about it because in
We
my analogies, that was the same thing from my perspective. I have the answer, but I'm not going to tell you. I want you to suffer and learn yourself. But it is important to learn and understand it. But from my new way of thinking, I was like, but it's so unfair. I want to know. And I
Everybody
get the
wants to know
answers.
what was wrong with the car.
Hydraulic lifters.
There you go. I know. Hydraulic lifters. Yeah. I don't
Well, they
remember
weren't- they
which car.
weren't-
I don't remember which car that was.
Lincoln Aviator.
Was that all the Aviator?
Yeah, 4302, they had hydraulic lifters and they would leak oil out overnight back into the oil reservoir. So when you start the car up, they would go tick, 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 tick. And then they'd fill up with oil and the sound would go away.
Just
But it
like
sounds
your
like
mind
you're...
sometime.
Oh, my mind's like that all the time. Don't sell it short. Are you kidding me? That's
all
why you
right.
can't sleep at night.
Oh, I know. All right.
So there you go. A little bit of funny to share with
See,
people.
Kathy says, see, Wayne, you're raising your frequency right now.
Oh, gads.
Misha's cars are a boy thing. I used to take motors apart and put them back together in hot rods. I used
She's
to
my
love
hero.
that. I am a car fanatic, even though I've always leaned more towards, foreign vehicles.
Well, nobody will fault you for that. They just don't work. Want to go down that road with me? Let's talk about that. No, let's not.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. You win.
Well, come on. The first time I opened the hood with that other car that you have, I opened the hood up and it's all in German. And there's no oil dipstick. There's nothing. Like, what do you do with that?
I call you.
Who can't speak German? Who puts you in touch with the tow truck? That's the end of that.
On that note,
Oh.
it's a good thing this is laid back. Man, you're gonna get my vibrations going the wrong way.
Now. Carry on. So where are we going? What are we doing?
Okay, we're gonna talk more about vibes, but in a different way. So, okay, have you guys all been reading about Yellowstone right now? Yellowstone
yeah.
Park, and how animals are leaving in a ridiculous, fashion. Now, professionals say no. This is migration. This is what they do. They move around, but there are professionals. I believe scientists are thinking, well, there could be something because they can also react to energy as well, and they know when disaster is going to happen, or they know, who knows, maybe the ground's rumbling a little bit. There have been really bad weather out that way, and I know that John Yazzie, who's on Don't Whistle at Night, he's on one of our shows here on the network, has said like he saw a pretty big bear out in the Navajo Nation. It was like the desert area. Going, no, don't think I've ever seen one of those out here. And it came from Yellowstone, apparently. So, I mean, if we are looking at that, I would think that would be cause for concern. I mean, there were buffalo going through metropolis areas. Like, I mean, not just one or two buffaloes. I mean, a large herd of buffalo just going through metropolis area, just trying to get out. You're used to seeing them on Yellowstone, like let's say on the roads out that way, but not going into where there are businesses or homes.
Animals are more in tune than we bipedals are. They're connected. I mean, you just look at the lobsters that migrate under the ocean, and they just follow the magnetic lines of flux, and they just follow those. They don't need to see. They just their brain is in tune with that line. I mean, I wish my memory worked a little better, because there was a case not that long ago, and it was fascinating, where migratory birds that came from the northern part of North America, like Canada, and they would fly to the southern part, along the coastline for the winter. And they all arrived on time, and people would gather around with binoculars and pictures to watch these flights of birds come in, and they start building their nests. And they hadn't even finished the nests when they all just split, all of them, just up and gone. And everyone's like, wow, why are all the birds going?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and people are like, well, there must be bad news. Oh, blah, 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 doomsayer, this, nothing. They just went on to better nesting grounds. And then a hurricane came through and devastated the entire area, destroyed it.
So the
And then
birds knew.
and then the birds came back. They came back a week after the hurricane was done. They built their nest like nothing happened. How did they know? Did they pick up on the wind currents? Did they understand something is amiss? You know, I don't know, but they're with it and we're not.
Animals definitely have a way of knowing. They're highly intuitive. I mean, I know there are paranormal investigators who would bring dogs on investigations with them for that reason. You know, I always think it's just such a, you know, I get it why you do, because I mean, when people call me, I'll say, do you have a pet? Follow their lead, see what they're doing. They will alert you to danger, that kind of thing. Or if they're just, you know, trying to get out of the house, you know, something is up. I've worked with many people through the, you know, many years who've had pets who would react. Where I get a little bit concerned with that is because we've also worked with people where the pets ended up with attachments because they're the ones that can't speak. Right. Good place for you know, an entity to sort of hide behind.
Hide out.
Yeah, exactly. So I always get a little bit concerned, but yeah, so I always say, listen to the animals and the children all the time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this is something that I still see the occasional post come up about the animals leaving Yellowstone. And I imagine, you know, there's a lot going on with the planet right now, with the environment, and things are happening, and maybe they're just reacting to a lot of that, whether it's happening right there on the spot or whether it's just happening around, and they're, you know, maybe getting out of Dodge and migrating a little sooner than normal, or moving out of the area just in case it hits the area. You know, obviously, you know, things have come somewhat close, but to see a bear in Navajo lands, apparently that's something that's quite unusual. So one example of that, right? So I thought what might be fun is if we talked about ancient spirit communication.
Hello. I'm old, but not that old. Holy cow.
Because there's many different types of communication, right? Hold on a second. Alan, putting it up. I read an article earlier that talked about a time when the whole earth shook. Wow, that's crazy. It's weird. Go ahead, Wayne.
Well, there's just to by what Alan said. There's talk right now. Like I said, I'm not a geologist. I'm a simple guy. But this one guy was saying that, you know, they're drilling into the earth so deeply now to get groundwater, and they're pulling it out like just like in millions of gallons. And the one guy said, could they, if they're pulling that much water out of one side of the planet, you know, could it cause the earth to shift? And I'm like, water's heavy. if you took water off one side of something, it's going to cause a reaction on the other side for sure. It's just like, but again, I don't know how valid that is. Was it really a thing, or was this just a conversation that was happening in the what if world, right?
We live in a very the planet's incredible. It does all kinds of crazy things. And I think when you factor in we ourselves are energy, you know, I think, I mean, I've mentioned before, every now and then it's believed that somebody will pass away and you'll get this big boom that'll happen. And one of the cases that stuck with me was an elderly lady in a very small town. So they were able to pinpoint, you know, the approximate area where they came from, because everything was spaced right out in this little place. And when she passed away, there was a huge boom going. Like the sound was just like, they compared it to what, like, let's say a sonic boom would sound like.
Sound barrier.
Yeah. And when they looked at the time, and they, you know, the person living in the house with this elderly woman said, you know, like, my grandmother died exactly at this time, and it happened exactly at that time, roughly hard to pinpoint. I don't know how you pinpoint an area like that, because to me it would sound all encompassing, but but this story has come up throughout different parts of the world, and I'm thinking, how fascinating is that? You know, hold on. We're talking about the Earth. Are we assuming the Earth is a globe or is it flat? Yeah, I went there.
Yeah, you did.
Oh boy.
All depends on who's providing you the educational information.
Like a quickening. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, exactly. More of dome is what is described. Yeah. Boy, see, that's a whole other rabbit hole. How come falling stars only fall down? Well, I don't know if they fall down. We've seen shooting stars.
Shooting stars go across.
Yeah. They
Ones
go
that enter the
across.
atmosphere are definitely on the way to the ground.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's
the
the bird.
bird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the bird. Sorry. Bird's happy. Bird's in bed. I don't know why it's carrying on.
Got the lowrider song going on.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Wonder where she learned that from.
Bird can be amusing. Yeah. Sing it, Bruce. Yeah, exactly. If a tree falls in the forest, anybody hear it? Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Don't say you don't get entertained over here. Even the bird's in on it.
And
She's
teaching
an
the
African
bird
gray.
all
For
kinds of
those who are
stuff.
wondering, she's an African gray that we're sort of bird sitting right now.
He's
Yes.
got the Dukes of Hazzard horn going.
I know, birds are going.
Birds are
That's
going.
insane. Anyway. Okay.
I apologize.
Oh, I know, the bird getting in on the action. Okay, so I thought we would get into spirit communication. I
Mhm.
thought that would be kind of fun to touch on a little bit, because it goes back to ancient times, and people seem to have always been captivated, and just because we kind of got sidetracked, but because we were talking about like Dan and Ozzy, so I thought, you know what, let's kind of to the bird. Wayne, glad you went. Like, where's Dexter? Wait for it. He'll start whining.
Oh,
pretty soon.
he'll be back.
He's
He needs food, so he'll be here.
Cat's highly dramatic. Anyway, because we're just seeing so much of this right now, but people have been captivated with death and what lies, on the other side, and attempts to contact the dead in order to obtain knowledge was always quite commonplace. In Victorian times, it was really huge, but this is something
Huge.
that went on for ages, right? So
I think people are fascinated with death because it's the veil of the unknown.
yes,
Like, as human beings, we need knowledge. We crave knowledge, what's over the other side of the hill, because we want to know, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you reach this, well, I watched my mom die, and now she doesn't move anymore, and she's gone. Well, where did she go? Like, where did she go? Why is she gone? Like, why can't I talk to her anymore? Like, it's just that, I think that's what drives the need to try to communicate with the spirit.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there are a couple, of researchers out there. So, Alan, no, Dan is just who I was talking to. Talked about him after I talked about Ozzy. Just point of references. Anyway, whenever a celebrity dies, this person gets on YouTube with, ghost box communications. And sometimes it's just a little too soon to do stuff like that. But it's that curiosity thing again. People just, they have those answers. And, I get it. The dead do speak. I've always said it. In fact, I ended up creating a TV series that's doing quite well, by the way, and I'm not allowed to talk about it. I didn't want to do it, but I did create it. Anyway, the idea was that, let's say you had questions, and the example that I had used was Mallory, for example, right? Climbing Mount Everest. People would say, did he make it to the top, or did something happen on his way back down? Did he make it up? Because he was sort of mid-range or part way, right? Not far from the summit. And the idea was, using different techniques to just ask him. Just ask. So there are a whole lot of situations like that. But again, it's the world wanting to know well, we want to know like what happened. Like right now, for example, both with Dan and with Ozzy, waiting for reports to come in saying how did they really go. And it takes time
Hmm.
to go through that whole process. So there are people out there saying, "Nope, we're just gonna conjure them up and find out." It's like, okay,
Yeah,
but
but there's danger in that too. Like you always say, you don't know
yes,
whose doorbell you're ringing.
thank you.
Like if
Hmm.
you desperately seek answers. Someone will give you the answer,
Hmm.
especially the one you want to hear, but it may not be from the your
Hmm.
dearly beloved departed.
Exactly.
That is the concern.
I have worked with too many people. Before we get into the different types of communication, because there are many different types here, but I've worked with people who wanted to um, communicate with their family member or friend. I could give two cases. One was a spouse, and one was a parent, where they wanted to communicate, and they used forms of um, well, one was a form of divination. It was a pendulum, and something else came in, completely took over and wreaked havoc within the household. The
Mm.
other was done through doing voice recordings, doing EVPs. And a lot of researchers, will tell you don't mess around, especially in your own home. You got nothing going on, just you have to be very, very cautious, and there are steps you have to take.
Sorry.
Bird. Yeah, the bird. Anyway, there are steps you have to take. Kathy says knowledge takes the fear away. Yeah, oh, absolutely.
But that's why people were doing it.
Yeah.
Not only to find out if dear old mom made it okay, but I'll be okay when I go. It puts the fear to rest.
Hmm. Yeah. See. Hey, Alex, how are you? No, exactly. Exactly. But if we're getting into, you know, going back in time with spirit communication and how it has grown into, like I said, this phenomenon that we experience today, even through technology. Because back in the day, you would start with shamanism, and it's that's good.
Bird's right into it,
I'm
man. Keep
competing
going.
with a bird. That's
No, the
awesome.
bird's cheering you on. She likes what she's talking about. Go.
I know. So anyway, so shamanism has been practiced for, it's believed like tens of thousands of years. And a shaman would enter into a trance, different trance states, through different musical rituals, like drumming, for example. And sometimes they would use different artifacts or consume certain hallucinogens. We should leave it there. And
Edibles.
right. And it would allow him to enter into the spiritual realm to communicate with spirits or nature beings, things like that. And these practices, have been used in cultures throughout the world, right? So this is not new. This is probably one of the oldest types of spirit communication.
Mhm.
Then we get into like necromancy,
Hmm.
which is, I know, the divination by the means of the dead. It's said to be one of the oldest occult practices in the world. In the first book of Samuel, which is in the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament, makes mention of the witch of Endor in the 11th century BCE. And it said that King Saul was concerned about the outcome of a battle that he was going to against the Philistines. So he was desperate for answers. But it was outlawed in Israel before him to go and visit this witch. So he went in disguise, and she would evoke, the spirit of Samuel, to which predicted Saul's defeat. And his army, not only did it fall, but he himself was killed. Right. So I don't know. Then you get back into, a temple, the Necromantion, Oracle of the Dead, which was in Greece. And it's a temple dedicated to, wait for it, Hades, entrance
Well,
to the underworld, right? But there are places like this throughout the entire ancient world, temples where you could go in and you can um, you can communicate with the dead. This is something that they all did. Birds telling us about Yellowstone.
In its own language.
Oh my gosh, I know. I know. I think I may be an OBE experienced. I'm having one with the bird. Just saying. Just like, oh
There you
my
go.
God.
See.
So I don't know. What are your thoughts on oracles and such?
Well, I think they're a real thing. I mean, especially in Greece, the ancient Greeks were always consulting the oracles, and I think it was really neat how they. I mean, I wasn't there, so I don't know, but I mean,
Mm.
from telltale of it, they would have this the seer, the oracle,
Mm-hmm.
was in a cave, sitting up on a almost like a tripod kind of chair, like an elevated chair,
Yeah.
but it was above a hole in the floor, of which like vapors came out,
Mm-hmm.
and she would sit amongst the vapors, and then she would start reciting what she could see within the vapors. Now, who knows what chemical concoction is coming out of the ground at that point? She was probably gifted to begin with, but this just may have helped her, find that vision all the way along. What I find interesting though about that, in going back in time, and don't quote me on this, it's just my own observations, is that most of the oracles, the seers, things like that, the gifted ones were female.
Mm.
I don't see very many males that are pulling that off.
Well, that may have been the shaman, As far as the oracles, yeah, like the oracles of Delphi, those
Hmm.
were all women.
Yeah, but you had your medicine women.
Mm-hmm.
It's only later in sort of the what I call the modern age of film, that you get the medicine man. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that they're not there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of medicine men and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, but the ones that could have the visions, the seers, and the ones the kings went to talk to about battles and territories, they were all women.
Mm-hmm.
They would always go to the female to find out what was going on. And I always
Mm-hmm.
go back to things like behind every great man there's an even greater woman. There's truth in every saying. There's truth
Mm-hmm.
in that, but it's just become a cliche now. And in the modern world, we don't even pay any attention to that right now because it's not on our little iPhone.
Well, I mean, you can go back even to the time, of goddess worshiping in the
Hmm.
temples, where there were many temples, to different goddesses. And I think that got turned around a
Oh, sure it
lot
did.
into the more male counterpart. I mean, that it's common knowledge, you could stuff you could go
Look it
and
up.
find quite easily. But Kazon, just message me. I'll give you the name to someone I know who does drumming. Maybe he's got, recordings or something.
Well, I'll
Just
tell you a piece of information too while I'm at it.
okay.
Just about witches and the female, right?
Hmm.
During
Hmm.
World War II, we're pretty aware that the Nazis were very interested in the occult.
Hmm.
Huge. They were going all over the world looking for artifacts and stuff. But not many people know that on the British side in England, Churchill went and got a hold of a group of white witches to
Ah.
to cast spells towards Germany over the English Channel to confuse the bombers that were coming over.
Mm. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Hey, thought he
yeah.
would do that.
Not all high
Mhm.
tech. It's like
Yeah,
let's
got a little
get
bit of
down to.
woo-woo stuff going
Oh
on over
yeah,
there.
they were. You don't hear much of that, but it was
Yeah,
definitely a thing.
yeah. That's interesting for sure. Huh. Hmm.
Hmm.
I'm again, the ancient leaders would do that, and I guess it's something that's kind of gone in, obviously, into modern times a little bit there. I mean, because even the church, over time, the church maintained that only God had dominion over the dead. But I mean, there were so many practices going on in cultures, Persia, Babylon, Egypt, medieval times in Europe were just riddled with it. It gets really crazy. But then we get into the spiritualism in the 1800s. Like, can we even talk about that? I mean, you're getting into it. I'll always bring up, Lilydale, the town that speaks to the dead, but it was huge, and people were tired of conventional teachings and became fascinated by the occult and the supernatural. right? They were curious about ghosts and the ability and possibilities of communicating with them. Seances became so popular that they were the preferred method of receiving messages from the other side. And Abraham Lincoln's wife, Mary, was a spiritualist and hosted many seances at the White House, especially after her son passed. And Abraham Lincoln and Harry Houdini were known to have attended seances in Lilydale, New York, which is one of the largest spiritual communities in the world. And it was founded by the Fox sisters, and they were known spiritualists. But Harry Houdini visited so many mediums, especially in the 20s, trying to contact his deceased mother. And he was outing everybody who he thought, were attending seances. Like he was in disguise to do this, but he was outing everybody. Table tipping. I've done table tipping. I have to say it's interesting.
Yeah, but for every genuine person, you've got 25 charlatans. Right?
Exactly.
That's that.
Yeah.
That's plain and simple. That's in any walk of life. That's just spirituality.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So, hello.
wasn't Lincoln's wife warned of his assassination coming up through a seance, or am I mistaken on that?
I thought it was through some kind of a seer. I don't recall it.
I can't recall it, but there was a premonition given to her, not that his life was in danger and peril. It was coming to an end quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember the details.
I don't either offhand.
Foghead.
Lord of the Rings. Impressive when Aragorn used the dead as an army to kick on the orcs. Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you look at Tolkien, he was really versed and into a lot of that stuff, like a lot more than people realize. A white witch. No, not so much Caucasian as they were. A white witchcraft is everything is done for good.
Yeah.
Right. To different levels of that. So he dreamed that he saw himself dead, or that he saw it in the mirror. Didn't he dream about it? That could have been what it was as well.
I completely draw a blank on that. When you mentioned it, it was like I thought someone was given a bit of a premonition or a advanced warning, like that he was going to be in peril. Mm-hmm. So, and I think she didn't want to tell him. Is that right? She didn't want to tell him because he had meetings and stuff, and didn't want these flights of fancy to cloud his judgment. Mm-hmm. If memory serves, and it's not been good lately, so I don't know. I don't know.
But the whole movement, I think, did it did bring out, a lot of charlatans, and people became, I think, even to this day, they tend to be very cautious, as you should be, But I think with that, the Victorians, they love the whole macabre of everything, right? Picnics in the cemetery, the obscure Christmas cards, and the art of, telling ghost stories at Christmas. Instead of exchanging gifts, you would exchange ghost stories.
In the 1800s, too, you have to remember that advancement in machinery technology of the time was on a massive scale, so that people were experiencing things for the first time, like locomotives and later, steam cars, things like that. They were just fascinated by all of this wonder. So it doesn't surprise me that it just falls into suit with that. This is, well, why not? Let's explore it. Let's talk to the dead. Until you actually do it, it can be frightening. It can be if you have a real experience and you buy your lonesome. Let me tell you, have you depends on.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never had that happen. I've had some crazy experiences.
That's because you fear nothing, right?
It's not that I don't fear.
I'm talking about me, man.
I know, but no, it's not that I don't fear. I was just taught to not show it. I could startle like anyone else. Believe me, I do.
Oh, I know. And then you hit me. But I'm talking about.
What are you on about?
Who smacked me with my own book at a show?
Who popped bubble wrap right at me trying to scare me?
There you go. So you did. I never hit you.
That was a reflex.
I know.
If I actually meant to do it, I'd have knocked you off the chair.
See, violent.
No,
Fear nothing. Fear nothing.
Reaction.
Yeah, I fear nothing.
Wowzers. Wow.
Powerful,
Okay.
powerful.
So we're going to move on a little bit. So that's the age of spiritualism. And with the age of spiritualism, well, in the 1880s, they loved to use talking boards. Okay, so talking boards, yeah, a little bit different than the Ouija board, but talking boards were actually used, and they were part of a lot of older civilizations around the world for centuries. They would have talking boards. And a historic fun fact is a board was used in ancient Rome to predict the next king. And people were using boards for a really long time to contact the other side. In China, in fact, spirit writing was popular in communicating with the dead from the 5th century to the 13th century AD. And it was only outlawed about a century ago. Huh? Like, I don't think people realize how far back this stuff really goes. It's crazy. So now we get into, of course, the Ouija board, which was introduced in 1890. It considered to be a parlor game, which of course it's, that's how it's put off. But it was very popular into the early 1900s until World War One. After the 20s and after World War One, spiritualism became popular once again, and because a lot of people lost loved ones, right, in the war. So it became popular again, and it was known as the magic talking board. Don't ask me what the difference was between the two. And it gained popularity. Marketing.
Promise you.
Okay. Right. So it gained popularity again in 1973 with the release of the Exorcist film. People became convinced that the board was a gateway to hell and essentially connected to evil. So the 80s brought more books and movies, and people became more and more fearful of the Ouija board. And in modern times, the board made a resurgence. However, many people still being cautious, within the presence. But then you have those who just throw caution to the wind, But one case was going back to March 2017, so very recently, considering. And a convicted double murderer named Stephen Young of Pembury, UK, won the right to a retrial because 4 members of the jury had used a Ouija board the night before, finding him guilty of the murders, to contact one of the victims, who was named Harry Fuller, and told them to vote guilty. Where else could this happen? Anyway, many people have been plagued by non-human entities and have confessed to using the board, even in their childhood days, and to show that things have had longevity because they just went on and on and on, right? Like decades later. Yes.
Yeah, that'd be me.
Oh, you did that, did you?
Oh, yeah. That's why I said, the Ouija board. Oh, I can tell you a story or two.
Yeah. Oh, do tell. This is the night.
This is the night to tell it? Okay.
Yeah, tell it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about this stuff. And my buddy of mine in high school says, hey, you want to do this thing? Come to my house. We're going to play this board. I'm like, okay, fine. And we were both really into like the supernatural and ghosts and ESP and all that stuff, right? And, that's because we were just C-average students and wanted to be special. So we go and we sit down at his place and we start monkeying around with this thing and, go through the usual, you're moving it, no, you're moving it, blah, 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 whatever. So we finally realize that neither one of us is moving it. And we get a pretty good conversation going back and forth, get the spirit's name, where they died, blah, blah, blah. The whole night. It was really, really good. I thought that was going on really well. Anyway, we said like, can we meet you somewhere? And she said, the female said, no, you can't, blah, blah, blah. And a little bit later on, she said, the only way you can meet me is if you died. And this takes a while because it was spelling it all out, right? We're writing it all down. So then, we kind of went, no, that's not going to happen. Okay, I understand. That's fine. So then, many weeks later, she starts writing out, long story short, you can meet me without dying. Well, how do we do that? And she starts writing down all these numbers and letters and weird things, right? And it was my friend who said, that looks like the map, like on an old fold out paper map where you have the letters down the side and the numbers across the top.
Mm.
So we got a map out of the car and we looked at it and we put the two together and it finished up in St. Jamestown Cemetery. So we're like, yeah, that's pretty cool, right? So we go trucking on down there and, you know, we talk to the people that are there. They don't know anything. And we couldn't find her. So we come back and we play the board again. And she says, well, my stone's not there, but there's a big tree in row J down by the hill closer to the water. So then we go down there and we find this big tree. This is it, you know, and we describe it. And she says, yeah, that's the one. And she says, if you show up there at noon on Thursday, September the 12th, I'll meet you there.
Oh boy.
And we're like, cool. All right, that's cool. I love it. So away we go, me and my buddy, you know, full of all happiness. And we got to remember, folks, I don't drink and I never did drugs. So this is like straight up just me being silly. So we go down there and we sit down by this tree and we're just talking to each other and saying, you know, like, what do you think it'll be? Do you think she'll be a spirit, a ghost? What would she look like? You know, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. And then it was a sunny day, beautiful sunny day, nice, gorgeous, warm. And all of a sudden it got really cold. Like the hairs on our arms stood up, right? And he's like, ooh, it's getting chilly. I'm like, yeah, it is getting kind of chilly. And the grass was kind of long in front of us. You know, they hadn't cut the grass on the hill yet. And all of a sudden you just see the grass go flat as if somebody sat down in front of us. Oh my God. It scared the hell out of us. We ran so fast down that hill. I don't even remember climbing the fence. Like there was a chain link fence at the end of that hill. I don't remember hitting the fence. I don't remember climbing the fence. I don't remember anything. But the next thing I know, we were walking down some road miles away. You know,
you just kept running. You didn't even know where you were.
No, we just kept bolting until we could see humanity again, and then we sort of slowed down, winded and tired, and trying to figure out where did we park the car and how did we get back.
No,
but oh geez, yeah. And you know what? We tried to reach that spirit again to sort of say, sorry, you spooked us. Never did we get that response from her ever again.
Like you hurt her feelings.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Terrified me. It just scared the poop out of me.
It gets really spooky. I mean, I've had Ouija board stories. I've heard, you know, I've worked with so many people. I've heard crazy stories of things that have happened to people. But I mean, from my own personal experiences, you know, I knew all kinds of people who used them. And I remember my mother telling me a story, and my grandmother confirmed it. And my aunt, being the youngest, was, you know, had played with a board. And this is going back, guys, like decades ago. Decades. Because my aunt was the youngest, and she's like in her 70s now, okay? Or 70, pretty much. And she had asked to meet the spirit of the board. And it cautioned her. And it says, one night when you're alone, because she was very persistent, I will present myself to you, and it'll give you the scare of your life, sort of thing. So middle of the night, going back, I mean, it was probably days, maybe even a couple of weeks. And my grandparents heard my aunt scream. And they raced over, because her bedroom was just down the hall, because my aunt was like pretty much the last one there, right? And like being that the siblings had moved out by that point. And when my grandparents came down the hall, they saw something exit her room. And the way they described it was like like a hunk of flesh wandering out. I would never have believed it if my grandparents would not have validated that, because they were witness to it as well. So needless to say, she avoided this for years and years and years. Okay. So hence me 14. Okay. She goes, I think we should play with a Ouija board. We should just fire this up. My mom was sitting there going, this is a really bad idea. And it was 10 years between my
voice of reason.
Right? My mother, the voice of reason. My aunt going, no. You know, and it was like an old wooden board too. Like it was wood. It wasn't one of these just, you know, something that had, you know, like what do they call it? A press board with an image sort of rolled onto it kind of thing, like a paper image, right? Like a lot of what you get now that's just sort of put in there. This is like wood. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so she decides she's going to fire this up. The things just went terrible from that point on. It's like everything sort of got cold in the room, and she goes, And I guess she might have been having a deja vu. So she kind of said, okay, you know what? Yeah, we're just going to stop this right now. And the board fell. And when she picked it up, there was like a face imprinted, almost like a burn mark in the wood. Like of this some kind of a face starting to like manifest itself. So I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm good, and she left the board there. I'm like, would you just leave the board here? So I had crazy friends back then, like, give me the board. I'm like, you can have the freaking board. Here is the board. But that night, my aunt claimed that on her way home when she was driving, something was in the back seat of the car. She felt a presence, and that night she felt something pushing down on her chest. So, my mom, well, I told you, mess with that freaking board. My mother. And so, but that was the last time, like I ever played with a board per se. And it was because my aunt, my cool aunt, I was going to try this board, boy. Oh boy. So yeah. So those were, like my direct experiences.
The extent of that board with my friend, what he ended up doing, he wanted to do it more and I wouldn't do it anymore. So he ended up taking it and putting it away. Fast forward a few years, and back then there was no such thing as a whiteboard, but through the years it had come up. So he goes and he takes the planchette out and he puts a whiteboard up on the wall.
Oh,
right? And he puts all the letters, yes, no, goodbye, hello, all that stuff. And he hangs the planchette down on a long string, and he puts the marker through the middle of the planchette. He just leaves it hanging there where nobody can touch it. It's in his room, right? So it's just like, it's cool. If spirit wants to talk to me, they can move it on their own. Nothing happens for like months. And then he comes into school one day and he's just like, oh, I got to tell you the story. Anyway, he got up in the morning and there was squiggles all over the board with this white thing, and the planchette and the marker were gone. Never did find it.
That's crazy. It'd be kind of interesting if his parents are just trying to mind ninja him just to straighten him out.
Oh, possibly. Never know. But I thought it was a great story.
That's something I would have done. I think Ouija boards get a bad rap. They're a tool. Yes. And I'll get into that for sure. Exactly. Like many other things, I will get into that. Hi, Richard. How are you? A few times I've done the board. The other person was definitely pushing the planchette. Fakers. I know, the thing moved on its own. I'll believe it. Yeah. You know what? That's what I basically wanted to explain. Like it comes into, I'm a really big believer in mindset, and I would do many experiments. People would bring me over to say, okay, look, this is happening. And then they'd have this board or they would just, I had one guy just like, throw an ashtray on there and just say, well, I can control all of this. I'm like, no, you can't. And he would try to control it. And I would just go like this, like, no, because my mindset was clearly, strong enough to manipulate it a little better, because again, I'm being like on the logical side of things. I truly believe if you're scared or nervous, you may contact something negative that will play on that with you a little bit. But if you make the mistake of asking for sign or, asking for an invitation of any kind, they're going to go in there. And I truly believe if there is something there, they know exactly what you're thinking. If you're going in and you don't have a clear mind, it's going to give you all the answers that you want because you're thinking, because some of these answers. People are asking for validation. Meanwhile, it's in their head. So meanwhile, the thing's going and it's telling you exactly what's in here. It's telepathy. That's just the way it is, right? So,
tell you what you want to hear when you get closer and closer.
No, exactly. That's exactly right.
I mean, let's face it, if you're communicating with something and it's calling you a moron and telling you all kinds of bad things, then you're not going to want to play with it, right?
No, somebody they don't always play nice in the sandbox, not at all.
Nope.
So, Zisan, we got in contact with a Ouija spirit once that I had to talk to, and came to an agreement as he was on my land in ancient times and did not want to leave. He threw a lamp across the room once. Doesn't play nice in the sandbox either, apparently. So apparently you have to close the board, and people don't do that. Fact.
100%.
It's a good idea. It is a good idea. But I mean, let's talk for a minute before we get into, different types of technology. I think if you were using anything to invoke communication, whether it's a pendulum, whether it's a Ouija board, whether it's a spirit board, right? Because talking boards, which are different, whether you're looking at a voice recorder doing EVPs, who's here with me? What are you doing? Can you do this? Can you show yourself? It's the same idea. Whatever it is that you're using, if you're invoking and asking for communication, you're going to get it. So I think people sometimes forget that. Even a phone app. Do you remember that time we were at a convention and somebody sent over this little girl and her father to me,
Yeah, I
right?
remember that. Yeah.
And so what happened was, long story short, Dad traveled a lot on business, wanted his 11-year-old daughter just to be happy. So he got her, she would watch some of the ghost hunting shows. He got her voice recorder, got her EMF detectors, and just let her go wild, right? Until things started happening in the house. Because he's traveling. So she has a caregiver, at home with her, and things are going on. And he says, oh, yeah, he goes, doors are opening, closing on their own. I'm like, okay, she could be projecting energy. It's PKing, like psychokinesis. She's the right age. Puberty could be a thing. But the thing is the longer she applied and used these tools and trying to get communication, the more things amped up. But, I, offered to assist, and they didn't want any sort of assistance. I could not tell you how things ended up with this family. No clue. We never heard back from them again, and don't know how badly it went. All you could do is say, okay, well, it's not like you didn't try, right? So I don't know. So let's kind of get into the early days of technology. The need to communicate with the dead intensified. So people started experimenting with different ways. I think we have Nikola Tesla, right? The ghost box, the telephone to the dead, was said to have been invented at first for spirit communication. And it was the first device that had been done until Thomas Edison in 1920 decided to do the same idea, again, to the telephone to the dead. A lot of people thought it was a hoax. But yet, fast forward modern times, enter ITC, right? Instrumental transcommunication, and EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. And they focus on electric devices to capture disembodied sounds that the human ear couldn't particularly hear. Mm-hmm. So Attila von Szalay, if I said that right, an American photographer in the 1940s, experimented in capturing disembodied voices on a 78 RPM record. It wasn't until he teamed up with psychologist Raymond Bayless in 1956 where they were successful only after switching to a reel-to-reel recorder, and published a book called Phone Calls from the Dead. Like this is a thing, and this is going back, we're 75 years now, 70 years. So EVP research continued into the 50s when a man named Frederick Jurgensen unexpectedly captured voices while recording bird songs one day. He spent years doing EVP research, and he teamed up with Latvian parapsychologist Konstantin Orodiv, if I'm saying that properly. If not, I am so sorry for butchering it. But they have done over 100,000 recordings throughout the course of his life. This is being, Konstantin. And in 1980, George Meek and Bill O'Neill invented the Spiricom, which was a large computer with 13 tone generators that span the frequency of an adult male voice, let's say. And they allegedly claimed that the device allowed for two-way conversations with the dead. And then lastly, Of course, in 2002, Frank Sumption created a device that swept through AM radio frequencies and created white noise, which would allow spirits a way of communicating via radio bands in real time. And, he claimed that this information was given to him because he was a shortwave radio operator. And all of a sudden, like this voice kept coming through telling him how to build this thing. He ignored them for like 2 years. So I got to communicate. I was just getting to know Frank in the last probably 6 months of his life. And he has sent me some of his recordings. And he said, what's interesting, he goes, is everybody thought I was trying to communicate with the dead. He goes, I was trying to communicate with aliens. I was just kind of like, didn't see that coming. But, and of course I had like a really dear friend gift me with an original Frank's box. So I'm really happy, happy to have it because we only made so many of them. So I don't know, thoughts on spirit communication, Wayne? We've had fun with that.
Wow. There's a lot to take in. I mean, it's, the devices are out there. I mean, we've had them on the phone apps. We have quite a number of interesting little gizmos and machines that, seem to pick up all kinds of different things. And the thing about it is some of the stuff that they come up with, they couldn't know that. Mm-hmm. I mean, that one piece of equipment that we had, and my dad had been gone, I don't know, 4 years, maybe 5 at that point, and, my dad was from England, but from a part of England where, you talk like you have marbles in your mouth, right? So nobody could understand my dad. I used to have to translate, and, my mom was going through a pretty bad time, and we had this thing set up in the dining room. And I remember asking Michelle, I said, can I talk to anybody, or does it just have to be like the people in the house? And she was like, no, you can, if they're around, they'll answer. And I said, okay. So I want to talk to my dad. And I put his name out there, and I waited for a minute, and I said, are you there? And man, the voice that came through that was my dad. And it was like, it wasn't even a close match. It was like so bang on. It gave me shivers, and, and I said, how are you? And he says, fine. And I said, like mom's going through a time and a half, that, right? And he's like, I know. I said, do you see her? And he goes, every day. Mm-hmm. I'm okay. And then, we had this little conversation, and it was really moving. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it all, again, like if it's fake, it's a damn good fake, because we used to have this dog that used to drive him crazy. And at one point, I said to him at the end of it all, I said, okay, well, I'm going to say goodbye now. Before I do, I said, is the dog with you? And you hear this guy go, yeah. It's just, nobody would say that but my father about that dog. Right. So like it was compelling. I have to say it was very, very compelling.
Mm-hmm. I think just the need to know sometimes becomes so overwhelming. I know in the 70s, there was I cannot remember the name of the author, but they were doing experiments and putting voice recorders in cemeteries, and not just that, like old, like really ancient places as well. But cemeteries, to cover that whole theory that, there's always spirits in cemeteries. Not all cemeteries are haunted. That's definitely not, but people automatically think so. So I always kind of say it goes back to that tulpa thing. You have enough people who get in there thinking that there are indeed spirits that are left behind. And I'm sure that there are, and I'd like to think that eventually they wander off, or people may help them move on. But I think also the mindset that they're so, no, there's somebody there, and the fear escalates because maybe you're in there in the middle of the night, whatever the case may be. I think it may create a form of energy, or maybe they're projecting that energy outward, Anyway, whatever the case may be, is they started going to different locations, and cemeteries was one of them, and they would just put voice recorders everywhere, and they started getting voices, like conversations happening that were not human, because of, the way they tested the vocal levels and so on. Yeah. And they've done the same thing in old, in churches. I think, oh, maybe you'll get, residual, with singing, and then they would get conversations sometimes in languages that were not even native, or they may have been native, but they weren't currently, people inhabiting the area at that time. It was very, very interesting, but it just goes to show there was that fascination where they're still experimenting with this sort of thing.
It's amazing what you can get just
Mm.
sitting quietly. I mean, we've had the best results we've had
Mm.
in communication is when we include them in conversation. Like
Mm-hmm.
you and I will just be jamming about something. We'll have the equipment running,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not sitting there going, okay, so does anybody want to speak to us?
Well, it's a haunted house, so
yeah, and there'd be just crickets,
yeah.
But then you and I'd be talking about, like, okay, so like, how was your day, and what are we doing on the weekend, and do you want to do this or that? And you'd hear all of a sudden it'd be like, oh, hello, and then there'd be this three-way conversation going on.
Mm-hmm.
And we got way more interactive conversations through
Mm-hmm.
like non-invasive, inquisitive questions.
Yeah, people just jumping in.
Yeah, amazing.
On conversations,
Yeah.
I find, when you're getting into different voice recordings, how the theory, I get the theory, with the ghost box things, just riding the waves. And my first experience with that was a message that was left on and I have to say it was an automated telephone answering machine, which was done with tapes, mini cassettes. And I came home one day, and this is going back this is probably 1989, a long, long time ago. And I was not into any of this stuff back then, not at all. It wasn't even a thought in my mind. And I came home, and my partner at the time said, can you just listen to that voice recording and tell me what you hear? Because his mother had just passed away, like literally weeks before. I was like, yeah, okay, no problem. So I rewinded the tape and got it playing. And what was interesting was back then, if you left a voicemail, it would beep, and then it would, then the next message, it would beep, and there would be another message, and it would beep, right? So it channeled through. I kept going beep, beep. And then all of a sudden, it was his mother's voice, hands down, and we had like two cats, and she used to call them the fellas because they were both like twin white cats practically. She'd go, hello, fellas. And that was just that. And then she channeled through probably three more. It was what beep, and it sounds beep. But what you heard in the background was radio waves.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the radio playing in the background. The bird is like off her nut right now.
Bird's having a time.
So anyway, so you had this, channeling through, riding this wave where she was able to speak, and that was on a little mini cassette. It wasn't an EVP. It's just something she came through and left. But she and I were very close, so we had an agreement. Whichever one of us would pass first would come and connect with the other. She was older than I was, but she's only 50. Right at the time. So that was sort of like, it was very young, and she passed away very suddenly. And so she says, well, it'll probably be me first anyway, because I'm old. I'm kind of like, well, but so I don't know. There is something to this riding the wave thing.
Well, look at back at the Niagara Manor House with the coach house that was on the back of the house, right? That thing would have been used for carriages at first, but then it was modified for motor cars back in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been a place where oil changes were done, or cars were waxed and cleaned up in there, all kinds of stuff, right? So it was interesting because when we were sitting in there late at night, and the ceiling fan would be going, and that was all that was going in there, and we would shut off the TV because we would hear something. And we would look at each other and go, is that like a background noise on the TV? And we shut the TV off. And as I sit here breathing, you could hear an old-time baseball game. And for me, it was amazing because the only thing that was running was the fan, the ceiling fan. And it was very quiet. It wasn't one of those like, airplane motor fans.
Yeah.
It was very hush, very, very quiet.
Yeah.
But I would think, like, I wonder how many, gentlemen might have been in there at one time in the garage, waxing the car, or,
Or like a
just,
residual sound,
yeah,
maybe.
and
Yeah.
listening to the
Yeah.
ball game while they were doing it, because that was the garage at one
Yeah.
time I mean, probably from 1882 right up
Mm-hmm.
until 1969 when they sold it. That was the garage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of time in there. Guys have music on when they're playing, working on their cars, or they have the ball game or whatever, because
Mm-hmm.
we would hear that so many times. And it had that old twang of the old baseball games in the 40s and stuff like that. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what? It is residual sounds, I think, are something that tend to be really, really common. Sometimes people just don't know what they're listening to.
Yeah,
It's
but
like, go ahead.
yeah, sorry, just like to finish up on that too, just while you're saying that, is like I would be in there in the
Mm-hmm.
day and the night by myself without the TV on. I wouldn't hear it. I wouldn't hear it at all. It's when it
Mm-hmm.
was when the fan was running.
Yeah.
Then you'd hear it.
Yeah. That's crazy. Um, Adrian says, hey, my African gray sees and talks to spirits, even repeats words I never taught them. 2 full sentences. I have a very cool story about this.
That's neat.
When
Very neat.
for anybody who owns African grays, they'll remember Alex, the parrot. And Alex was in a university. He knew over 400 words. He was a very smart bird. He could do puzzles. He knew his colors. He knew everything. And when he passed away, the university put out something where they were asking for donations because they wanted to purchase another bird. And they have since purchased others. And I was contacted because I did give a donation. I was contacted by Alex's handler, essentially trainer. And she said, I have a very interesting story to share with you. I said, I would love to hear it. So apparently, Alex, always stayed at the university. He never came out of there. And his teacher, she goes, I never ever, I had parrots of my own. I had African grays as well. And I did not bring home any information that I had taught Alex. That was something, specifically for him. What was interesting, she said, is within a few days, my African grays started picking up, just saying words and songs that I had only ever taught Alex. So the bird, she figured that Alex was visiting her and her birds and teaching them all these things because her birds were picking up things that only Alex knew.
That's crafty.
Wasn't that crazy?
That's
I thought, wow, that's fantastic. I really love that.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, I felt really, really humbled to have her reach out to me and share that story with me because I had owned several African grays back then, and I know birds are amazing. See, son. In fact, Zara, the bird in the background, was my bird at one time, and I had downsized, and of course my son and daughter-in-law, well, just let us take the bird. We want to make sure we keep the bird. It's like, okay. So of course we're babysitting her at the moment, but it is so fascinating. People don't realize just how intelligent they are. I've reared babies, and fostered babies, and I've taken in, birds that have been lost, and humane societies were not necessarily equipped to deal with that at the time. So I've reared them from the time they were out of an egg, pretty much, maybe rejected by their mothers, and I've reared them into full-on fledglings. Anyway, they're cuddlers. They'll cuddle with you more than a cat or a dog. Every night, I had one bird, we had to cuddle every night at the same time, and she'd fall asleep right in the nape of my neck and just fall asleep. So it's just, I know she was just the baby. That was it. Followed me all over the house. She'd walk around until she could fly. And they're just really, really clever. But like all, little beings, whether they're fur beings or feather beings, they're just so They're so intelligent and they can
Well,
see
they are that.
everything.
Well,
You
coming
know?
out of a haunted house to here, like all the experiences I had over there. When
Yeah.
the bird moved in, the first couple of days that the bird moved in, it was pretty quiet. And then she
Yes.
kind of got comfortable getting used to the area, right? Her
Yes.
new surroundings. So I'm sitting at the breakfast table one morning all by myself. It's like it's still early spring. It's dark, and like you kind of forget the bird is there because it's a new thing in the house. And all of a
Yes.
sudden I hear the door. I hear the
Uh,
and I'm thinking that's the door.
yeah.
And you hear like
Mhm.
hello. Who's in the house? It's the bird.
It's the bird.
The bird opening and closing the door and saying hello.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They're clever. They're definitely
Oh,
clever. Yeah, people are mentioning crows and ravens. I have been
love
a
crows.
guest on other people's shows and we've talked about birds and ravens and the whole thing behind all of them. But they are, long story short with them, is they're messengers. And they're messengers, between the realms and the worlds, and they will carry your messages. And Alan says a murder of crows will protect humans if they connect with you. Ironically, it happened
Truth.
to a friend of mine. Yes, we know. Yeah, definitely not the same. No,
No.
I grew up with 3 families of ravens on my property. Amazing. They're huge. They were big birds. But again, now this friend of mine was walking through this wooded area, and there was an area that she was very um, she was it was known to have a lot of ethereal activity. I guess we'll leave it there. And she was going to help out a neighbor, and she got really on edge, and all of a sudden the whole path in front of her was filled with crows, just sort of blocking that space away from her.
Mm,
So she didn't have to see it. She was able to just kind of muddle through and do what she had to do. So
very cool. Yeah,
yeah,
a crow's my totem. My totem animal is my crow.
yeah. Say,
Very cool animal.
love it.
Mm.
There's so much to it, though. When I
Oh,
did the
there is.
show, I researched for that show. When I did that guest appearance, and it was so amazing. All of the information I found. I'll try it. Maybe we'll do it one night for an open mic sometime, and I'll get the information and we'll talk about it. It's crazy. It's like some of the representations and it's a whole list of things. They are just amazing. And crows and ravens are phenomenal talkers. Minor birds will talk better than any parrot. Right. I saw a robin speak one time. As a friend of mine trained birds. I had a wild African gray that came into my possession, and I sent him to her because she trained these. She would train them, and she trained this little robin that had been thrown out. Its little nest mates plucked all of its feathers off. It's this little bald from the neck up. It was all bald, and I'm sitting there and I'm visiting my gray, and all I hear was hello. And I look down. I'm looking around. Going, what the hell? It's going hello, hello, hello. And I look down. It's this little bald robin because he had all of his feathers from the neck down, looking at me, going hello. I was like, she looked at me and says, I didn't expect that. I'm like, no,
Not at
not at
all.
all. No, no, no. Her parents rode little bicycles and everything. It was crazy. She was just so well trained, but
Like I remember one time on a long motorcycle trip, I'd got sort of turned around on the highway. I didn't know where I was, and the weather was turning, and I was trying to get back to where I was going,
mm,
and no GPS back then. I'm on a bike, little map on the tank kind of thing, driving along, and I see this crow fly across the front of me, go up the road, and land on a sign that had the 2 ways to go, east or west. I didn't know where I was, and it walked along the top of the sign to where it said west. So I'm like,
yeah,
okay, I'll take your word for it. So I took the ramp and I went west, and then a little bit further up, there was another crow sitting on a sign that said, take this, like this is where you got to go. So I
right.
took that, And then I saw 3 more along the way until I got back on the road where I needed to go. It wouldn't have been the way I went, but there was, and then I never saw another crow. I never saw another crow the whole trip.
Yeah.
Like,
I know, but
freaky
they're messengers.
They are.
And sometimes, like, I don't want to give it all away. Well, seriously, I will include it on an open mic sometime.
Sure.
But I mean, there's quite a bit to it. So there would be literally like a good amount of time spent on, talking about it. I did an hour show based on this, so I would have to condense it. But it is really fascinating. So whenever you see a crow or a raven, don't freak out with it. Some people get really freaked out. They look at these big black birds as being like, oh my God, they're evil. No, it's nothing like that at all. In fact, it's the complete opposite. Right? It's just,
love it.
Yeah, it is. People just have to be aware, but it's fantastic. At the end of the day, the
drama queen is here.
There we go. There's Dexter. Feed me. It's a good thing we're close to ending the show because His Highness needs to eat. Oh my God.
Well, the bird's meowing, the cat's meowing.
Oh yeah.
It's all good.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
It's the circus. It's the circus.
Never a dull moment here. Never a dull moment. So we're gonna stop it there because I thought that was like a really great conversation. Everybody got into it. I love it. So tomorrow night, guys. Okay, our guest Joshua Cutchin had a schedule confliction, and he could not get out of it. So we've rescheduled him into September. He will be coming in because we definitely want to talk about this book of his. But I am daring to do something I hardly ever do. I know. I am putting on a replay. This is going to be really crazy hot tomorrow, and there's things that I've got to tend to. So anyway, so tomorrow night we're going to be playing part 1 of a recording. It's a replay, so there's not going to be a live chat room, okay? But award-winning journalist Laura DiDio breaking the Amityville story. So she's going to be live with us, by the way, next Wednesday. So I thought it would be good to just give everybody a little bit of a Laura DiDio segment because she is wonderful. Honestly, she's been on the show a few times. She is just so crazy versed, and she was there in Amityville when that story broke. She knew the Lutzes. She stayed in touch with the kids, and she basically had been to the house even after the fact, and she's had her own experiences. You'll hear it all in part 1 of this. And then if you go, you can check out part 2. The archive will be there. And if you haven't listened to her before, it'll give you a good gear up as to what she's going to talk about, because she'll be on next Wednesday talking about other paranormal experiences that she has had. And next Tuesday, I'll be on the Outer Realm, since I won't be here to push it tomorrow night. Beyond the Outer Realm, Kat Ward from Paranormal Heart Podcast, who's also here on the network, her show airs 6 p.m. on Tuesdays, is going to be joining me to talk about all of her paranormal experiences. And it's going to be a lot of fun. She's a real sweetie. If you guys haven't checked out her shows, definitely check her out, and definitely check that out, because it will be a whole lot of, it'll be a really fun, laid back episode. So big thank you to all of you for making our open mic that much more fun. Everybody's so interactive. I love it. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee. Big thank you to Justin Snicker. Big thank you to Steve McGinnis. Please like, subscribe, share, comment on whatever platform you may be on. People have been asking about our Tuesday show. You guys all know where to really go and find that. It's not going to be here because it was an uncensored. So this is where you're going to find that, right? Just like that. So go check it out. And that's where you're going to get all the info on what went down yesterday. And it was a good conversation. So enjoy tomorrow night's replay. And thank you all, especially to our networkers who are just sharing all of this up. Thank you. Thank you. I love you all. I'm so appreciative for all of you. So we shall see you on Tuesday. Have a wonderful weekend. Big hugs and mad love to all of you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.